Hey guys, it's Miss Delcambre. So today is the 5th, and we're going to be going over lesson 9.1, Understanding Percents. So you'll need to make sure that you have your notes out. One second, let me get my mouse back over here. Minimize this. So you'll need your notes that start with Understanding Percent. And what I did is I went ahead and cut off that bottom section, and I flew the first top part into my journal. And then the second part, I just glued on the second side, okay? Because we're gonna do some writing down here at the bottom. So, first definition: a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. The percent symbol is used to show percent, so it's comparing a number to 100. So this is very important. And then you have your symbol here. So what I've done is I've taken and I made my own little symbol. I'm going to grab my little scissors if I can find them here. And I'm going to cut this into 3 pieces. Remember, this is a percent symbol. I'm cutting it into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. So if I rearrange my percent symbol, I get the number 100. So remember, percents are a number that compares it to 100. And if you just change your percent symbol around, I'll go like this and boop. But maybe that one goes there. Somehow like this. I flip some stuff around, but still, here it goes. My percent symbol, I break it apart, and it becomes 100. So it's comparing a number out of 100. So 17% is equivalent to 17 over 100, 17 to 100, and 17 to 100 using a colon. So using benchmark and proportional reasoning. So benchmark fractions are those fractions that you see most often. These are the ones that you'll see when you go shopping. These are the ones where you'll see, percents off, percent savings, 10%, like your interest rates are normally benchmark fractions sometimes, maybe not. But here are your benchmark fractions. And we're just going to write that down real quick, that benchmark percents and fractions are seen most often. So benchmark percents and fractions are seen most often. Right? And here's a rundown of our benchmark fractions. So here from 0 to 1, or from 0% to 100%, these are the benchmark fractions that fall in between there. Those are the ones that you see most often. So the first ones that we have, and come in and grab my marker right here, is 1/2. 1/2 is a big benchmark fraction that you need to memorize. Is 5/10, which is also equal to 50%. Okay, along with 1/2, you have 1/4. 1/4 is like a quarter, only shorter, just 25 hundredths, which is 25%. Okay, 2/4, which should be equal to 1/2, which 2/4 is 50 cents. So the same thing there. Then you have 3/4, 3/4. 3/4 is equal to 75 hundredths, and which is 75%. Okay. Now, another one that you see most often is 1/3. So 1/3 is benchmark fraction, and this is a repeating one. So it's 0.3, and then how we show that it's repeating is we put a line over it. We put a line over it, which would be equal to 33 1/3%. 33 1/3%. 33 1/3% is 1. And you can, whenever you see that percent, you're like, well, what fraction is it? What fraction is it? It's right there. 1/3. 1/3. All right. My next one is 2/3, which is just double 1/3, which is 2/3. And 2/3, if I double 0.3 with a line over it, that double 3, which would be 6. So it would be 6 with a line over it. Which should be 66 2/3%. Should be 66 2/3%. All right, so we have 1/2, we have our fourths, we have our thirds. Those are most of our benchmarks. We have fifths, which is another fifth benchmark. So we have 1/5, which is 2/10, which is 20%. Okay, we have 2/5, which is 4/10, which is 40%. We have 3/5, which is 6/10, which is 60%. And finally, we have 4/5, which is 8/10, which is 80%. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little trick here with the fifths, how to remember this. If you have a fifth, if anything is a fifth, put an imaginary 0 behind your numerator. So that would be 10. How many times can 5 go into 10? 2 times. Imaginary 0, how many times can 5 go into 20? 4 times. Imaginary 0, how many times can 5 go into 30? 6 times. Imaginary 0, how many times can 5 go into 40? 8 times. And that's an easy way. That's a trick with the fifths. Your other ones, your other benchmarks that are most likely used or most commonly used are your tenths and your eighths. We're going to kind of talk more about that this week, your tenths and your eighths. All right. So those are some other benchmark fractions that you will use, the tenths and the eighths. And again, we'll go over more of those this week. All right, so let's turn our page over. So use a benchmark to find an equivalent percent for each fraction. So we have 9/10. So come over here. And I have 9/10. All right, so we need to find an equivalent percent for each fraction. Remember, percents are out of 100. Well, I need to get this to 100. Well, how can I go from 10 to 100? I multiply by 10. I multiply by 10 up here. So 9 times 10 gives me 90. Percents are over 100. 90 is over 100. So that would give me 90%. All right, we have 2/5 here. So we have 2/5. I need to get this 5 to 100. Well, 5 times 20 gives me 100. So 2 times 20 gives me 40. And that's 40 over 100, which is a percent, or out of 100, which is 40%. Okay, so let's look at our word problem here. So 64% of the animals at the animal shelter are dogs. About what fraction of the animals at the shelter are dogs? So remember, we know that 64% are dogs. So that's 64 out of 100. So 64% is equal to 64 over 100. If I want to simplify that, well, what number can both go into 64 and 100? Well, let's start off, well, they're both even, so divide them by 2. Okay, so 2 can go into 64 32 times, and half of 100 is 50. Then I notice, well, both of these numbers are even, so I can take another 2 out. Well, half of 32 is 16, and half of 50 is 25. So we can say 16 25ths are dogs, And then if they needed to know, well, what part are cats? Well, all we have to do is subtract 25 and 16, find the difference, and we can figure out what the other animals are, which we can figure out that 16 minus 25 gives me 9. So we can say 9 25ths are others. That's just going kind of a further step in, going another step in. Okay. So I want to look real quick at showing how to represent these fractions with with models. Okay. So I'm going to look, and you may see like a strip model like this. And it's labeled 0 to 1 or 0 to 100%. Okay? And I'm going to split it in half, and I'm going to split each half into half. Okay? And then I'm going to come over here with my color, and I'm coloring one box. All right, so if I'm looking at my one box here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. So, and one of those pieces is colored in, so this would be 1/4. And if I'm looking at 1/4 as a percent, well, 1/4 of 100 would be 25%. Okay? Now, if I'm doing this again, okay, so that would be like looking at 25%. So you have out of 100, 25% is colored. That would be 1/4. All right, I'm going to draw another model here. This time, I'm not cutting it into fourths. I'm cutting it into fifths. So again, I'm going to do 0% up here, 100% here, 0 and 1. And I'm going to cut it into 5s. I'm doing my best as I can, cutting it evenly. All right, so I'm coloring in 3 of those boxes. All right, I know I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my denominator is going to be a 5. And I have 1, 2, 3 shaded, so I have 3/5. And 3/5 of 100 is 60%. So that's how I would represent 60% as model. And another one that always tricks people up is thirds. So again, I'm going to make my model here. 0%, 100%, 0 and 1. And I'm breaking it down into 3 parts. So breaking it down, making 2 cuts, roughly about the same. And I'm going to shade in 1. So this would be 1/3, which would be 33 and 1/3%. Okay, guys, 100 you cannot break into 3 groups evenly. So that's why you have that 1/3 as a fraction there. Okay, and one of the things that we've noticed is when you go from percent to decimal to a fraction, is basically you're moving some stuff over. I have a percent, decimal, and fraction. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. So if I have 29%, that's just 29 hundredths. And as a fraction, remember percents are out of 100. So my denominator would be 100 and my numerator would be 29. Okay? You can also have percentages that are over 100%. So if I have 175%, well, percents are out of 100, so I'm basically moving 2 spots to the left. So that would be 1 75/100. And as a fraction, remember this would be over 100, so I have 175 over 100, which is an improper fraction, which is 175 over 100. And that can simplify because that's a benchmark fraction. 75 over 100 is 1 3/4. 1 3/4. All right, so that sums it up for today's notes about understanding percents. And the next day, what we're going to be doing tomorrow is percent, fractions, and decimals. We're going to be converting from percent, fractions to decimals. Sometimes it's easy, nice and easy, like we did up here with 9/10 when we converted it to percent. Sometimes it gets a little difficult. So we're going to tackle that tomorrow. So have a good day. Make sure you get into your Google Classroom and complete your assignments. All right, bye.